Welcome to Learning English, a daily 30-minute program from the Voice of America. I'm Pete Musto.
And I'm Dorothy Gundy. This program is aimed at English learners, so we speak a little slower and we use words and phrases especially written for people learning English.
Today on the program, you will hear stories from Anna Mateo, Phil Dierking, Susan Shand, and Brian Lynn. But first, this report.
Tim Piazza and Marquise Bram told their parents they just wanted to make some new friends by joining college social groups called fraternities. Neither of them got much of a chance. The two young men died after taking part in extreme rituals for admission into the all-male student groups. They were not even 20 years old. Now their parents are launching a campaign to end these rituals across the United States. They are joined by the parents of Max Groover and Brian Kowiak, two students who died in similar ways. And they have partnered with national leaders of fraternities and of female student social groups called sororities. Fraternities and sororities are private social groups common to many colleges and universities in the U.S. They have a long history as part of the American higher education experience. Students pay membership fees. The groups hold parties and other social events. Some offer shared housing. Members usually also must take part in community service programs. And members often help each other find jobs after they graduate. But there is a darker side to Greek life, as involvement in fraternities and sororities is often called. The term comes from the letters of the ancient Greek alphabet the groups use to make their names.
The process of becoming a member sometimes involves what is called hazing. This is when current members force pledges, those interested in joining, to take part in dangerous, abusive, or possibly illegal activities. Last week, Tim Piazza's father, Jim, and Marquise Bram's father, Rich, began preparing for a number of television appearances. They would use those appearances to announce their anti-hazing campaign. I know it might seem strange to some people that families who lost their children to fraternity hazing are now working with fraternities and sororities to eradicate hazing, Jim Piazza told the Associated Press. But, he added, we will do anything that we can to save a life and to prevent another shattered family. His 19-year-old son died last year after his fraternity brothers ordered him to drink a huge amount of alcohol. He became severely intoxicated. He fell repeatedly, including downstairs and into an iron fixture. It was almost 12 hours before the fraternity members called for medical help. He received treatment at a hospital, but it was too late. Tim Piazza died from his injuries. Police arrested almost 30 members of Piazza's Beta Theta Pi fraternity at Pennsylvania State University in Centre County, Pennsylvania. All higher-level charges have been dropped. 3 people have since admitted their guilt to lesser charges, and 1 is already under house arrest. The Piazzas have reached a settlement with the fraternity to end the civil legal action the family had sought.
18-year-old Pennsylvania State University student Marquise Bram killed himself in 2014. His suicide took place after a series of extreme Phi Sigma Kappa fraternity hazing rituals about which he had protested to school officials. Currently, the system, and that's the police, the district attorneys, the judges, they seem to view hazing as it's kind of like kid stuff, said Bram's father, Rich. These fathers say they are happy to have found allies at the top of the North American Interfraternity Conference and the National Pan-Hellenic Conference. Together, these organizations represent nearly 100 fraternities and sororities nationwide, and their leaders are ready and willing to work with Piazza and Bram. Judson Horace is the president of the North American Interfraternity Conference. He said a first goal of this new joint effort is to press lawmakers in all 50 states to strengthen anti-hazing laws. They want lawmakers to make it a felony to force a student to drink alcohol. Some state governments have been slow to strengthen such laws in the past, but Horace said he believes Greek organizations can get them to change their policies.
Keep in mind, fraternities and sororities have 9.1 million students and alumni as members, Horace said. That's part of the network we're building now to make this happen across North America. His organization is also trying to solve the alcohol issue itself. By this time next year, he said, highly alcoholic drinks will be banned from all fraternity housing of organization members. We can do more together than we can alone to address this societal problem, said Carol Jones, chairman of the National Pan-Hellenic Conference. The fight against hazing requires that an entire community step up, including sorority women who can and must do our part to create safer campus cultures. The Greek life leaders also plan to have parents like Piazza and Bram speak to as many as 25,000 college students this school year. They will talk about the dangers of hazing, and members of fraternities and sororities will be asked to speak to high school and middle school students. We realize that it takes many years to change a culture, said Piazza. We're not going away. We'll be here next year, the year after that. I'm Pete Musto.
And I'm Dorothy Gundy.
Now, the VOA Learning English program, Words and Their Stories. Our weekly program is about the words, expressions, and idioms we use in American English. In any language, idioms can be difficult. Sometimes you need to know a lot of cultural backstory, the meaning behind the words, to understand these sayings. And using them the right way can cause problems for English learners. But do not worry. Even people who grew up in the United States speaking English have problems with some of these idioms. On another Words and Their Stories, we told how the idiom, blood is thicker than water, is misunderstood. This week, we talk about another expression Americans usually get wrong. That expression is curiosity killed the cat. I know it does not sound very nice, but trust me, it's not that bad. First, let's start with the word curious. The word curious means to want to know things you don't know, to investigate. So to be curious is not a bad thing. Adults and teachers often praise children with curious minds for asking questions, sometimes a lot of questions. Curious people can be very interesting. They want to know more about the world around them. Another way of saying curious is inquisitive. The verb inquire means to ask one or more questions. However, prying is a form of curiosity, but not in a good way. Someone who is said to be prying into other people's business wants to know about things that do not concern them. And often prying is an effort to find out secrets by looking for them in improper ways. We often use it this way. We say to someone, "Look, I don't mean to pry," and then we go ahead and pry by asking them a personal question that is none of our business. Sometimes when we pry, we are simply concerned about someone. But it can still start trouble. So as we said, curiosity is usually a good thing, but it can also put you in harm's way. Curiosity killed the cat is an idiom that we use to warn people. Being curious can get you into trouble. We often use this expression when others ask prying questions. People asking such questions are trying to find out something that is none of their business. They are being nosy. Okay, so now let's hear an example of a nosy person asking prying questions by putting their nose where it does not belong.
So last night I saw Tom out with a woman, and it wasn't Jessica.
Really? They haven't broken up, have they?
I don't think so. You know, I'm having lunch with Jessica tomorrow. Maybe I'll ask her.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Why? Aren't you curious?
A little. But it's not a good idea to stick your nose into other people's business.
I'm not being nosy. I'm just curious.
Well, you know what they say. Curiosity killed the cat. Just leave it alone.
Maybe you're right.
Here's the problem. Curiosity killed the cat is only part of the expression. The whole idiom goes like this. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. That last part really changes the meaning. The cat gets to live. Curiosity does not kill it. So we use the first half of the saying as a warning. Be careful of the dangers of unnecessary investigation or experimentation. But the second part, satisfaction brought it back, shows that the risk might be worth it. Not many English speakers know that in the original idiom, the cat survives. But now you do. In the end, the way most Americans use the idiom is as a warning. And they simply say, curiosity killed the cat. And that's the end of Words and Their Stories for this week. I'm Anna Mateo.
A group of hikers have started an 805-kilometer trip that will cross the southwestern state of New Mexico. Their goal is to map out the best path for the Rio Grande Trail. New Mexico wants to follow the examples of other states that have created long hiking trails. The state has many beautiful areas,
mild weather, and cultural resources. Officials now want to create a long-distance trail along one of North America's longest rivers. The Rio Grande flows through the middle of the state, from the Rocky Mountains in the north to a desert area near the border with Mexico and Texas. Supporters of the project say the Rio Grande Trail could possibly become one of the country's famous long-distance trails. Other popular trails in America include the Appalachian Trail. It runs from the state of Georgia in the south to Maine in the north. The Continental Divide Trail that crosses many western states is another famous trail. The neighboring states of Colorado and Arizona also have their own long-distance trails. Outdoor recreation in New Mexico is already an important industry. Jeff Steinborn, a New Mexico state senator, thinks the benefits of the Rio Grande Trail could be huge. He supported legislation in 2015 to create a group to establish the trail. We can't even begin to appreciate all the opportunities that it will unfold for our citizens, for economic development, and for frontier communities, he said. In the eastern U.S., more than 3 million people visit some part of the Appalachian Trail every year. An organization called the Appalachian Trail Conservancy is working on a study to better understand the spending from trail visitors. It is also researching ways to bring attention to long-distance trail systems. Jordan Bowman is a spokesperson for the organization. He said people enjoy exploring the American backcountry. He said the trail offers people the opportunity to experience many things from easy afternoon walks to months-long adventures. In New Mexico, the Rio Grande Trail Commission last week approved an official trail image, and a master plan is also being developed. This month's hiking trip by volunteers from the Southern New Mexico Trail Alliance is aimed at exploring parts of the proposed future trail. They are expected to gather information about water supplies, camping areas, supply stops, and not-to-be-missed scenery. Peter Livingston of the Alliance said his group is looking for a lot of those little details we can't pick up until we're actually there on the ground walking it. He has traveled more than 190 kilometers in 5 days. He expects the whole trip to take about a month. A small solar panel sits on the top of his backpack, charging a collection of GPS and satellite communication devices that record his trip. Livingston's travels have taken him along the edge of volcanic land that makes up the Rio Grande Gorge near the town of Taos. To the west of the trail, he has found many homes, called earthships, made from recycled materials. To the east is Wheeler Peak, the highest mountain in New Mexico. The trip is expected to end near Mount Cristo Rey, where people come each year to make a religious observance. Steinborn plans to join the hikers there. About 80 kilometers of the trail has already been approved. Steinborn said another 160 kilometers is being planned with the federal government and environmental planners in the middle Rio Grande area. It's coming to life in front of our eyes, he said. I'm Phil Dierking.
Chinese officials have introduced new laws that would restrict religious writings and activities online, Agence France reports. The restrictions reportedly affect images and descriptions of religious activities, such as praying and burning incense. News of the proposed laws comes as China increases efforts to control religious activities, including those of Islam and Christianity. The new rules would permit only members of officially recognized organizations to post some kinds of religious writings. The rules appeared in a draft document posted online Monday by government officials. People would not be permitted to post photos, videos, or words about religious activities. They also could not share religious links. Organizations that do not follow the rules could be closed, the document said. However, the document did not explain the possible punishment for violations. It said only that violations would be dealt with according to the law. China's government is officially atheist. Officials are worried about organized movements outside of government control. Experts say efforts to control religious groups have grown under President Xi Jinping. China officially recognizes 5 religions, but the government places controls on what they can do. The government decides who can go to religious services and what can be said by religious leaders. The proposed law reportedly says that the laws will help with social stability and stop extremist groups. It also bans releasing religious information within China by any overseas individuals and organizers. Jeremy Daum is an expert on Chinese law. He said the new rules could make it illegal to put information about any kind of religious activity on the Internet. He added that it could include even pictures from a marriage ceremony. Daum also said that even parts of traditional Chinese culture could be banned from appearing online. The country's top leaders recently called for religions to accept traditional Chinese values and culture. This has rights groups worried. The Chinese government has stated it wants to stop extremism. In parts of the country with a large number of Muslims, it has removed Islamic symbols from public areas. In western Xinjiang, Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslim minorities are being punished for violating laws against some religious activities. As many as 1 million Muslim minorities are believed to be held in re-education camps in Xinjiang, rights groups say. Many of them were detained for posting extremist religious material on the Internet. I'm Susan Shand.
Afghanistan has its own version of the famous British comedy actor Charlie Chaplin. His name is Karim Asir. He wears makeup and clothes to look like Charlie Chaplin did in movies. Asir also uses similar physical movements. He performs on the streets and at events in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Afghanistan has dealt with many years of deadly civil conflict, foreign military invasion, and widespread destruction. The 25-year-old actor says his goal is to use humor to take people's minds off the difficulties they face every day. It is very simple. I want to give Afghans a reason to smile, he said. Charlie Chaplin rose to fame during the silent film age in the 1920s. His movies became popular around the world. One of his most memorable characters was a funny-looking man known as the Little Tramp. This character had no money and was always getting into trouble. The creative methods he used to get out of trouble were always humorous. Asir told Reuters news agency that his family fled to Iran after the Islamic Taliban group took control of Afghanistan in 1996. He said as a child there, he would watch Chaplin's movies on television. When the family returned to Afghanistan, Asir started wearing makeup and recreating Chaplin's characters. He also began performing in public, even though his parents expressed concerns about him making this his job. Asir recently spoke to Public Radio International's show The World. He said his parents wanted him to seek more steady work choices, such as a politician or doctor. But he said he felt his interests and skills would be better used in other ways. I said to my father and to my mother that I can't be a doctor, but I have the skill to become an artist, he told The World. He added that his parents showed understanding over time, and he decided to study theater at Kabul University. Now, Asir says his parents are pleased when they see his videos getting more than 1 million views on YouTube. And he said they like that people line up on the street to take pictures with him. But it is not always easy for Asir to perform in a city that suffers repeated attacks by Taliban rebels and suicide bombers. Militants have threatened Asir, whose performances, they say, are un-Islamic. But Asir still performs in public parks, homes for needy youth, as well as private parties and international aid agencies' events. I want to give my people a chance to forget their problems, such as war, conflicts, and insecurity in Afghanistan, he told Reuters. To do this, he keeps smiling while performing around the city and meeting with fans. But Asir says that inside, he cannot help but feel fearful about possible attacks. I am afraid of getting attacked by a suicide bomber or an explosion. But these issues cannot stop me from being Charlie Chaplin, he said. I'm Brian Lynn.
And that's our program for today. Listen again tomorrow to learn English through stories from around the world. I'm Pete Musto.
And I'm Dorothy Gundy.